The information in this podcast is current on the day of recording. It is general advice only and does not take your personal situation into account. It may not be suitable for you.
Good morning, everybody. My name's John Addis. I'm the founder and editor of Intelligent Investor, and I have with me here again James Carlisle, who is the analyst on 6 of the top 10 growth businesses in Australia. He's here to talk about the final one. James, are you still there? Are you hanging in? Are you managing to get through this okay?
I love a quality growth stock. That's so I'm feeling a lot of pain at the moment because they're not on most people's wish list this year. But over time, I reckon they do pretty well. And right. there are a few that are growing as well and are as high quality as this next one we're about to talk about, even if it's barely making any profit at the moment. Anyway, I'll let you carry on with it.
So this is James is talking about Audinate, which is the owner of an audio networking technology called Dante. We first reviewed this stock in March 2018 when it had emerging network effects was the phrase that we used, and we had a buy on it at about 270.
Pretty emerged already, but
yeah, they were established by then.
Yeah.
Current price is around 740. It's been a lot higher. It's been off and on the buy list many occasions over the past few years since then. But let's start with the technology itself, James, because this is very much a software business with hardware applications. Tell us about Dante and what it does.
Dante is a bunch of networking protocols which can take an audio signal, and now more recently a video signal, and it can put them onto a digital network and send them around a digital network. Now, the reason that's important is that if you imagine the bad old days, which are mostly the current days actually, where you've got, just imagine some people on stage and they've got a guitar, they've got a microphone, and those have to feed, they have to have an analog cable which feeds into an amplifier, and then from the amplifiers to go to all the speakers. If you wanted to broadcast the sound in another room, you'd then have to run those analog cables round to the other room, and you get this sort of spaghetti of cabling, which is extremely inconvenient. And actually reduces the quality as well, and makes it more likely to fail. And by getting it onto a digital network, you can send the signals everywhere using just plain ordinary Ethernet cable, which most buildings are now being built with wired in. So it just works that more simply. You plug your microphone into the network, and you can plug a speaker into the network in another building. You can, in fact, not just in another building, in another city. So once you're on the network, you can send the signal where you like. It also opens up another couple of opportunities. We wrote about that in a review this week, really, because they had a technology day last week where they were talking about their software. So once you've got the signal onto a network, you can then do processing on it using your laptop, and you can also manage the signals much more effectively. So you can decide which receiver you want to connect with which transmitter. So you can connect different microphones to different speakers to different recording equipment, and you can just turn it on and off. So for a university, for example, which has now after COVID, people, the phrase hybrid learning is being used a lot, and you're connecting people in one lecture theatre. You're connecting a lecturer in a lecture theatre with speakers in that lecture theatre, but then also perhaps speakers in another room on campus, maybe a different campus, maybe recording equipment. And then, of course, all of that has to be added to video. Now, sorry, I'm going on a bit too much. I'll break in a moment. But the key part to all this is that you obviously want your microphone to be able to work with any kind of amplifier and with any kind of speaker, with any kind of network equipment. So you want to use the one set of protocols. It makes no sense for the market to have a bunch of different protocols. And Dante has, over the last 5 or 10 years, become the clear winner. I think it's fair to call it a winner now in that market. So if you want to get your audio signals onto a digital network, Dante is really the go-to now for everybody.
And that's a very significant thing, in that the advantages that accrue to a technology that effectively becomes a de facto platform, it puts Audinate in a very powerful position, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. Because this is, so the shift of audio signals to, it's only making 30 odd million US a year at the moment, revenue, and barely making a profit. But that's because, this shift is only at its very earliest stages. Only a small amount of they reckon at the moment, audio networking market, they reckon at about 400 million. So there may be 10% of that. That market will grow as well. And then there's the software market on top of that. Overall, they think there's a revenue opportunity based on current market sort of sizes of about 1.2 billion, split about 400 audio, video, and software. But we'd expect that market to grow over time due to the benefits of using a digital network over a traditional analog network. And so can
we just go through that? Because I think that's an important point for people to understand. If they've ever been to, live music or a conference or something, and you look at the stage, there's just bloody cables everywhere. It's an absolute nightmare. And they all sort of run back to the mixing desk, and the mixing desk is huge and there's wires everywhere. Dante avoids that cable spaghetti. It just massively transforms the lives of people who have to set these systems up, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And there are lots of, the stage is the easiest way to sort of imagine it for most people, I suppose. But we've already talked about universities as well. Houses of worship are another thing. Stadiums. So, you want to be able to broadcast different messages in different parts of a large stadium. So connect, you want to get that signal. You've got an announcer, you've got different sounds going from different parts, which you want to broadcast. Also, rail network, Sydney Railway Network uses Dante to broadcast signals in different stations. And, it's far more convenient to be able to do that centrally managed over a digital network than to have things limited to a signal coming through an analog cable at a particular station.
Yeah. So there is competition for the protocol. And I think in terms of the technology, if you think about the early days of the internet, where there were lots of different kinds of protocols which were essentially open to everybody. It was like open software. So there was TCP/IP, there was SMTP, which was a protocol for mail clients that even now is still used. There's PPP, point-to-point protocol. All of those things are open source. And if you build a website that allows the client software that operates on those protocols to talk to other clients that are on the network, the difference with Dante is that this is privately owned and there are competing technologies, but Dante now seems to have emerged as the clear winner. And if you're producing equipment that works on a network that might be an amplifier or it might be an instrument or a speaker, you have to have Dante installed now, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much. There are competitors, but they're not really growing at all. So I think the only protocol that's really growing these days is Dante.
So if you think of this in terms of, I don't know, VHS, and what were the other ones called? The
Betamax
Betamax, and
which everyone said was better, but yeah.
But VHS one, similar with probably with Windows. The fact that you got it installed in the equipment, it became the de facto operating system for personal computers. Dante seems to be at that point for the audiovisual industry.
Yeah, I think it's already reached that point of inflection where it's essentially impossible to stop it. Those are famous last words, aren't they? But customers also want to know that there's going to be the support behind it and the software that can make use of it. So they've got software that can help manage your digital network, and you need to be Dante to make use of that software. They're also using now a thing called Dante Ready, which previously was known as in-field enablement, which perhaps describes it a bit better, which means you can actually build Dante into your, so as an OEM, as a manufacturer, you can build Dante into your product. You can build it in very cheaply at a very, only a 4x4 channel installation. But then leave it up to the customer to increase the number of channels at a later date. And so all these things you can't do with the technology that isn't being supported in the sort of by a private company that's prepared to invest.
Okay, so it's a de facto platform. How does Audinate make money from Dante?
Well, in a bunch of ways. It makes when someone phones up, a manufacturer phones up and says they want to use Dante in their new product, they have to pay a licensing fee. They're switching that. That was a one-off fee. They're switching that to an annual sort of fee to use it. So you can, once you've got that, once you're paying your annual fee, you can use it, build it into your products, and then you pay royalties for additional product sales after that.
So they're turning it from a licensing to a subscription kind of model? Yeah.
And then there's obviously the software sales as well, which I think over time will also, so they started off as a perpetual license model, and they're going to switch that over to SaaS. They're probably a little bit late in the game on that, but they've had other things to do, I suppose.
Yeah. So why isn't if it is already the de facto system, why is it not making money yet?
Oh, because they're investing to grow the market, I suppose. They're investing to make more products available to more people. So all these software add-ons, this Dante Ready, all of that requires development. The last year or two, they've been adding video. Well, I'm sure it goes back further than that, but the products are beginning to come out that can do the video part of the AV. So put that onto the network as well. And when you put the video with the audio, it becomes absolutely critical to get them synchronized, and that's something that Dante is able to achieve. These are not easy things to do. Video also requires compression, so they've been having to invest in that. So there's a lot of investment going on to make sure they maintain their position in the market, but also to grow that market. They want to develop that video market. There's more competition, I should add, in the video market. That's a market which hasn't necessarily been won yet. It's at its early stage, but as Audinate management says, pretty much all the customers that might want to use Dante for video are already Dante audio customers. So it has a huge platform to use to tap into that video market, and we'd expect it to dominate there over time.
Okay, so there's two interesting growth stories here. How did the company deal with the pandemic? I mean, there weren't very many almost no live events. People were working from home, not much happening in education sectors. How has the company fared during the course of the pandemic?
Well, it's been good and bad, I suppose. So obviously live events have taken a hit. People haven't been buying so many microphones. But at the same time, well, not for live stage productions anyway, but this hybrid learning thing has been taking off. And I think people, the benefits of a digital network have really been showcased by the pandemic, if anything. So for the long term, I think getting people to do things in separate places, it's actually been a benefit. Although it has slowed sales of various products to do, particularly the high-end equipment that you might need for a live stage performance. And there's also been some supply chain issues over the last 6 to 12 months, probably going to carry on for another 6 to 12 months, where various chips. So they struggle if the chip shortage plays into both themselves because they use various chips to make their modules and cards, which are in short supply, but also customers that are building Audinate, Dante into their products need other chips, so they're struggling to make those products which would take a Dante chip. So that, like a lot of companies, there's been good and bad. It's been hugely disruptive, but I think they've managed to do pretty well. And it's a company which has excellent pricing power, excellent added value. So when you get these kind of disruptions, it comes through on the other side, and it's still something that people really want. I suppose the most important point of all that is that the value of Audinate is really defined by its cash flows long into the future, 10 or 20 years' time, because we're expecting it to grow considerably over this time. The revenues it makes this year or next year are relatively meaningless as long as it's got enough cash to fund the development it needs to do for the next year or two. It should start making profits in a year or two's time, maybe 2 or 3. That's fine. It's in a very good position.
It does seem a company exposed to the kind of environment we have here now, where the growth is way out into the future, and with interest rates rising and a focus switching away from growth towards cash flow positive businesses with cash in the bank, the share price has come back. It's almost halved since the end of last year, I think. It
did halve, but it's now bounced. It's
bounced very strongly, isn't it?
It's very volatile. I mean, it got up to almost $11, and then it actually touched below $5 on one day. That was a closing price. I think it got down to just $4.99 on. That's what my Cap IQ is telling me for last month, which is remarkable, really. But and it's now back up to around $7.50. So we had a trading update earlier this week where they said that pretty much business as usual, but business as usual was better than what most people were expecting. Most people, so they're going to make more than people had been expecting this year. Like I say, that's a small matter really, but the market pays attention to these things. So having halved, it's now added 50% in about a month. So it's pretty volatile, but that's what you get from a stock with a very large but pretty distant opportunity.
So for members who don't yet own Audinate, and I think most members of the team do own this stock and have held it for quite a few years now, there probably are going to be chances to buy this company and add it to your portfolio if you don't already have it. We've had a few over the past few months. Keep an eye out for it. I think it's a very exciting company. There aren't that many businesses where there are genuine network effects on a global scale, and Audinate seems to me to be one of them. It's a lovely little business, James.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time. That was fantastic. And I hope you enjoy your weekend, because after all of these podcasts, you certainly deserve it.
Will do. And you too.